Hello YouTubers, welcome back to Yorkshire Media. I am Mark, your host, your presenter, whatever you want me to be. And yes, I am better and cheaper than the BBC. And I've coined that phrase. So, what we're talking about today? Well, I'm going to be continuing the theme of serial killers. So I'm going to talk about H.H.holmes. And for the science fiction author who occasionally use the pseudonym H.H.holmes, see Anthony Boucher. It's nothing to do with him. So, H.H.holmes, better known, well, that's what he's known by. He was born at Herman Webster Mudgett, whatever, Mudgett, May 16th, 1861, May 7th, 1896, better known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, or H.H. Holmes, was an American con artist and serial killer, the subject of more than 50 lawsuits in Chicago alone until his execution in 1896. He chose a career of crime including insurance fraud, swindling, check forging, 3 to 4 bigamous illegal marriages, murder, and horse theft. Right, so here we go. So, Herman Webster Mudgett, May 16, 1861, Glenmolton, New Hampshire, US. Died May 7th, 1896, aged 34 years old, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, US. Others see aliases. So his aliases, it's a very interesting rig, because H.H. Holmes, Alexander Bond, America's First Serial Killer, The Beast, Chicago, The Devil in the White City, Torture Doctor, The Arch Fiend, Judson, and Robert E. Phelps. Alma Mater, University of Vermont, 1879-1880, University of Michigan, 1882-1884. Spouses, Claire Lovering, May 1878, Mater Bellcap, 1886, Minnie Williams, 1893, and Georgina York, 1894. Convictions: first degree murder, criminal charge murder, penalty death, so he was executed. Victims: 1 killed and confirmed, 9 total suspected. Span of crimes: 1891 to 1894. Location: Illinois, Indiana, Ontario, Pennsylvania. Date: appeared November 17th, 1894. Despite his confessions of 27 murders, including some people who were verifiably still alive while awaiting execution, Holmes was convicted and sentenced to death for only one murder, that of accomplice and business partner Benjamin Pitzel. Is believed he killed 3 of the Pitzel children as well as 3 mistresses, the child of one of the said mistresses and the sister of another. Holmes was executed on May 7, 1896, 9 days before his 35th birthday. Much of the law surrounding the murder castle, along with many of his alleged crimes, are considered lightly exaggerated or fabricated for sensationalist tabloid pieces. Many of these factual incurrences have persisted due to the combination of effective police investigation and hyperbolic tabloid journalism, which are often cited as historical record. Holmes gave various contradictory accounts of his life, initially claiming innocence and later that he was possessed by Satan his prosperity for lying has made it difficult for researchers to ascertain the truth on the basis of his statements. Since the 1980s, Holmes has often been described as a serial killer. However, Adam Selzer points out in his book on Holmes, just killing several people isn't necessarily just killing several people. It's not necessarily enough for most deviations of a serial killer. More often it has been a series of similar crimes committed over a period of time, usually more to satisfy a psychological urge on the killer's part than any more practical motive. The murders we can connect him, Holmes, to generally add a clear motive. Someone knew too much or was getting in his way and couldn't be trusted. The murders weren't simply for love or bloodshed, a necessary part of furthering his swindling apparitions and protecting his lifestyle. So here we go. Holmes was born Herman Webster Mudgett in Gilmerton, New Hampshire on May 16, 1861 to Levi Orton Mudgett and Theodore Page Price, both of whom were descendant from the first English immigrants in the area. Mudgett was his parents' third born child. He had an older sister, Ellen, and an older brother, Arthur, and younger brother, Henry, and a younger sister, Mary. Holmes' father was from farming family, and at times he worked as a farmer, trader, house painter, and his parents were devout Methodists. Later attempts to fit Holmes into the patterns seen in modern serial killers have described him torturing animals and suffering from abuse at the hands of a violent father, but contemporary and eyewitness accounts of his childhood do not provide proof of either. At the age of 16, Holmes graduated from Phillips Exeter Academy and took teaching jobs in Gilmerton and later nearby Alton. On July the 4th, 1878, he married Clara Lovering in Alton. Their son, Robert Lovering Mudgett, was born on February the 3rd, 1880 in London, New Hampshire. Robert became a certified public accountant and served as a city manager of Orlando, Florida. Holmes enrolled in the University of Vermont in Burlington at age 18, but was dissatisfied with the school and left after 1 year in 1882. He entered the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery and graduated in June 1884. After passing his exams while enrolled, he worked in the anatomy lab under Professor William James Erdman, then the chief anatomy instructor, and the two were said to have been engaged in facilitating grave robbing to supply medical cadavers. Holmes had apprenticed in New Hampshire under the Nuremberg Act, noted advocate of human dissection. Years later, when Holmes was suspected of a murder and claimed to be nothing but an insurance fraudster, he admitted to using cadavers to defraud life insurance companies several times in college. Housemate described Holmes as treating Clara violently, and in 1884, his graduation, she moved back to New Hampshire and later wrote she knew little of him afterwards. After he moved to Moores Forks, New York, a rumour spread that Holmes had been seen with a little boy who later disappeared. Holmes claimed the boy went back to his home in Massachusetts. No investigation took place. Holmes quickly left town. He later travelled to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and got a job as a keeper at Norristown State Hospital, but quite after a few days he later took position at drugstore in Philadelphia. But while he was working there, a boy died after taking medicine that was purchased at the store. Holmes denied any involvement in the child's death and immediately left the city right before moving to Chicago. He changed his name to Henry Howard Holmes to avoid possibility of being exposed by victims of his previous scams. In his confession after his arrest, Holmes claimed he had killed his former medical school classmate Robert Leacock in 1886 for insurance money. Leacock, however, died in Watford, Ontario in Canada on October 5th, 1889, in the late 18, while still married to Clara Holmes and married Myretta Belknap. October 8 in Pennsylvania. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, he filed for divorce for Clara as a few weeks after marrying Myretta, alleging infidelity on her part. The claims could not be proven and the suit went nowhere. Surviving paperwork indicated she probably was never even informed of the suit, and in any case the divorce was never finalised. It was dismissed June 4th, 1891 on the grounds of want of persecution. Holmes had a daughter with Myretta Lucy Theodore Holmes, who was born on July the 4th, 1889 in Eaglewood, Chicago, Illinois. Lucy became a public school teacher. Holmes lived with Myretta and Lucy in Wilmette, Illinois, and spent most of his time in Chicago tending to business. Holmes married Georgina York on January 17, 1894, Denver, Colorado, while still married to both Clara and me. So, yeah. So, you can see, he's lied a lot, and he really has lied a lot. So, yeah, he seems to me have lied a lot. H.H.holmes Castle. The site of H.H.holmes Castle was just to the left of the Englewood Post Office building on the corner. August 11th, 1895, Joseph Pulitzer's The World, showing a fictional floor plan of Holmes' murder castle and left to right, top to bottom. Scenes found inside it including a vault and crematorium, trapdoor in floor and quicklime grave with bones. Holmes arrived in Chicago August 1886, which when he began using the name H.H. Holmes, he came across Elizabeth S. Alton's drugstore at the northwest corner of South Wallace Avenue and West 63rd Street in Englewood. Alton gave Holmes a job and he proved to be a hard-working employee, eventually buying the store, although several books portray Alton's husband as an old man who quickly vanished along with his wife. Dr. Alton was a fellow Michigan alumnus, only a few years older than Holmes, and both Altons remained in Englewood throughout Holmes' life and survived well into the 20th century. It's a myth that they were killed by Holmes. Likewise, Holmes did not kill alleged castle victim Miss Kate Durkee, who turned out to be very much alive. Holmes purchased an empty lot across from the drugstore where construction began in 18th for a two-storey mixed-use building with apartments on the second floor and retail spaces including a new drugstore. Creditor of Holmes named John D. Burrell died of apoplexy apoplexy on April 17, 1890, in the drugstore when Holmes declined to pay the architects or the steel company, Turner Iron and Steel. They sued in 1888. In 1892, he had a third floor, telling investors supplies he intended to use it as an hotel during the upcoming World Columbian exhibition. Through the hotel portion was never completed in 1892. The hotel was somewhat completed with 3 stories and basement. The ground floor was the storefront. Fictionalised accounts report that Holmes constructed the hotel to lure in tourists visiting the nearby World's Fair in order to murder them and sell their skeletons to medical schools. There is no evidence that Holmes ever tried to lure strangers into this hotel to murder them. In fact, none of his likely victims were strangers. Holmes did have a history of selling cadavers to medical schools. However, he acquired his wares through a grave robbing rather than murder. Reports by the Yellow Press labelled the building as Holmes' Murder Castle, claiming that the structure contained a secret torture chambers, trapdoors, gas chambers and basement crematorium. None of these claims were true. The other accounts claim that the hotel was made up of over 100 rooms and laid out like a maze, with the doors opening into brick walls, windows, rooms, dead end staircases. In reality, the hotel floor was moderately sized and largely unremarkable. It did contain some hidden rooms, but they were used for hiding furniture Holmes bought on credit, did not intend to pay for. The hotel was gutted by fire started by an unknown arsonist shortly after Holmes was arrested, but was largely rebuilt and used as a post office until 1938. Besides this infamous murder castle, Holmes has had a 1-story factory which he claimed was to be used for glass bending. It isn't clear if the factory furnace was ever used for glass bending. It was speculated to have been used to destroy incriminating evidence of Holmes's crimes. So, there you go. So, the murder castle bit, it looks like it was fictionalised. Really, yeah. Really fictionalised. Early victims. April 12 newspaper, the New York Journal, showing a top the exterior of an interior Holmes castle. The bottom picture is the trunk he used. One of Holmes's early victims was his mistress, Julia Smythe. She was the wife of Ned Silas Connor, who had moved into Holmes' building and began working at his pharmacy jewellery counter. After Connor found out about Smythe's affair with Holmes, he quit his job and moved away, leaving Smythe and her daughter Pearl behind. Smythe gained custody of Pearl and remained at the hotel, continuing her relationship with Holmes. Julia and Pearl disappeared on Christmas Eve of 1891. Holmes later claimed she had died during an abortion. Despite his medical background, Holmes was unlikely to be experienced in carrying out abortions, or mortality from such a procedure was high at the time. Holmes claimed to have poisoned Pearl, likely to hide the circumstances of her mother's death, and partial skeleton, possibly of a child around Pearl's age, was found when excavating Holmes' cellar. Pearl's father, Ned, was a key witness at Holmes's trial in Chicago. Emmeline began working in the building in May 1892 and disappeared that December. Rumours following her disappearance claimed she had gotten pregnant by Holmes and possibly being a victim of another failed abortion. Holmes tried to cover it up. Emmeline Sigrand, I can't pronounce it. Another young girl who had worked for Holmes in his building, named Emily Van Tassel, vanished too. While working in the chemical bank building on Dearborn Street, Holmes met and became close friends with Benjamin Pitzel, a carpenter with a criminal past who was exhibiting in the same building a coal bin he had invented. Holmes used Pitzel as his right-hand man for several criminal schemes, and District Attorney later described Pitzel's Holmes tool as his creature in early 1893. In a one-time actress named Minnie Williams moved to Chicago. Holmes claimed to have met her in an employment office. Through there were rumours he had met her in Boston years earlier. He offered her a job at the hotel and his personal stenographer, and she accepted. Holmes persuaded Williams to transfer the deed to her property in Fort Worth, Texas, to a man named Alexander Bond, and alias of Holmes. In April 1893, William transferred the deed, with Holmes serving as the notary. Holmes later signed the deed over to Pitzel, giving him the alias Benton T. Lehman. The next month, Holmes and Williams, presenting themselves as husband and wife, rented an apartment in Chicago, Lincoln Park. Minnie's sister Annie came to visit, and in July she wrote to her aunt that she planned to accompany brother Harry to Europe. Neither Minnie nor Annie were seen alive after July the 5th, 1893. Although not proven, Holmes was suspected of killing 6 other persons who vanished between 1891 and 1890. Dr. Russell, who had an office in the castle, went missing in 1892. Kitty Kelly, and stenographer for Holmes, also went missing. Stenographer for Holmes and went missing in 1892. John G. Davis in Greenville, Pennsylvania, went to visit the 1893 World's Fair and vanished. In 1920, his daughter asked that he be declared legally dead. Henry Walker of Greensburg, Indiana, who went missing in November 1883, was alleged to have insured his life to Holmes for $20,000. Wrote to friends that he was working for Holmes in Chicago. Milford Cole of Baltimore, Maryland, was alleged to have disappeared after receiving a telegram from Holmes to come to Chicago in July 18, and otherwise unknown victim was Lucy Burbank. Her bank book was found in the castle in 1895. Jeez, you see what I mean? But you got to remember, he was only convicted for one murder. Capture. Arrest. Holmes' murder spree finally ended when he was arrested in Boston on November the 17th, 1895, after being tracked there from Philadelphia by the private Pinkerton National Detective Agency. He was held on an outstanding warrant for horse theft in Texas because of the authorities had become more suspicious at this point, and Holmes appeared poised to flee the county in the company of his unsuspecting third wife. In July 1895, following the discovery of Alice and Nellie's bodies, Chicago police and reporters began investigating Holmes' building in Eaglewood, now locally referred to as the Castle. Through many sensational claims were made, no evidence was found which could have convicted Holmes in Chicago, according to Selzer. Stories of torture equipment found in the building are 20th century fiction. In October 1895, Holmes was put on trial for murder of Benjamin Pixel and was found guilty and sentenced to death. By then, it was evident Holmes had also murdered the 3 missing Pixel children. Following his conviction, Holmes confessed to 27 murders, Chicago, Indianapolis and Toronto, though some people he confessed to murdering were still alive, and 6 attempted murders. Holmes was paid $7,500 by the Hearst newspaper in exchange for his confession, which was quickly found to be most nonsense. While writing his confession in prison, Holmes mentioned how drastically his facial appearance had changed since his imprisonment. On May the 7th, 1896, Holmes was hanged at Moyer-Menzing Prison, also known as the Philadelphia County Prison, for the murder of Pixel. Until the moment of his death, Holmes remained calm and amiable, showing very few signs of fear, anxiety or depression. Despite this, he asked for his coffin to be contained in cement and buried 10 feet deep because he was concerned grave robbers would steal his body and use it for dissection. Holmes' neck did not break. He instead strangled to death slowly, twitching for over 15 minutes before being pronounced dead 20 minutes after the trapdoor had been sprung. Upon his execution, Holmes' body was interred and unmarked grave at Holy Cross Cemetery, Catholic cemetery in the Philadelphia western suburb of Eden, Pennsylvania. On New Year's Eve 1909, H.H., who had been pardoned for informing on Holmes, was shot and killed by police officer Edward Drawburg during an hold-up at Chicago saloon. March 7, 1914, Chicago Tribune reported that the death of Patrick Quinlan, the former caretaker of the castle, the mysteries of Holmes Castle would remain unexplained. Quinlan had committed suicide by taking strychnine. His body was found in his bedroom with a note that read, "I couldn't sleep." Quinlan's surviving relatives claimed he had been haunted for several months and was suffering from hallucinations. The castle itself was mysteriously gutted by fire in August 1895, according to newspaper clipping from New York Times. 2 men were seen entering the back of the building between 8 and 9 p.m. About half an hour later, they were seen exiting the building and rapidly running away. Following several explosions, the castle went up in flames. Afterwards, investigation found a half-empty gas can underneath the back steps of the building. The building survived the fire and remained in use until it was torn down in 1938. The site is occupied by Eaglewood branch of the United States Postal Service. 2017, amid allegations Holmes had in fact escaped execution, Holmes' body was exhumed for testing, led by Janet Monge of the University of Pennsylvania Museum, Archaeology and Anthropology. Due to his coffin being contained in cement, his body was found not to have decomposed normally. His clothes were almost perfectly preserved and his moustache was found to be intact. The body was positively identified by his teeth as being that of Holmes, and Holmes was then reburied. So there you go. But also H.H.holmes, they have tried to connect him to Jack the Ripper, but obviously, it can't be. I mean, I seen a documentary on H.H.holmes where they were trying to connect. Could he be Jack the Ripper? I don't know. I don't think they found out anything. Well, that's H.H.holmes. That's the story of H.H.holmes. A fraudster and a liar. A pathological liar as well as all that. I know it's a long one, and I do apologise for that. So if you have liked that, please give me a thumbs up. Please like the video. Please subscribe if you're new. And hit the bell icon and please come back from time to time to make sure that you still subscribe to me. Please share the video to your friends and your family and to other social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch and Bing. And use the comment section and comment below. I will answer any question, or try to answer all questions if I can. Catch you on the next video. Bye for now. Bye. Bye everybody.